Case in point, let's talk about this Musk-Trump fiasco. The show that is unfolding in the circus that is our political establishment. You have seen a very quick erosion, deterioration of the Trump-Musk alliance. Who knew it was built on such a flimsy foundation? But we find out, as we do firsthand, especially when you're tied to the almighty dollar, there's no sense or commitment to principles. There's no real relationship, purely transactional. So when the transactions turn sour, you can act like a 5-year-old and take to the social media platform which you own to voice and air out your grievances for a relationship that you're having in order to what? Damage the other person politically? Well, we're talking about Donald Trump, Teflon Don here. I mean, who do you think's going to win? I think Elon Musk has lost this bout. Think about it. It was Elon that had to leave the White House. Donald Trump is still in the White House. He's still carrying out his plans and his policies, and he's consolidated his political power, and Elon is the one that's on the outs, and he's the one being petty. I mean, of the two, they're both insanely petty. I didn't know that there was somebody more petty than Donald Trump, but when you make Donald Trump seem like the sane, mature voice, you're dealing with someone that is deeply, deeply troubled. And that is what Elon Musk is. He's a deeply troubled human being, no doubt about it. So yeah, they've just, we know the greatest escalation happened yesterday with the accusation that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Of course, in other news, the sky is blue. Who didn't know that? But let's see, I think Donald Trump has responded with just calling him crazy. I'm surprised he hasn't said more, to be honest. Let's see. I find this whole story humorous, and I like when car crashes happen in front of me. I'm a rubbernecker. I rubberneck the highway. I slow down and I stalk and I and I watch very intently and closely. So if anybody brought popcorn, let's bust it out. If Elon didn't buy Twitter, Trump wouldn't have won the election. Well, that is big if true. Is this Elon Musk's sock account I'm talking to? You think Elon is America first and Trump is Israel first? Well, that is very big if true. Again, that's a vibes-based statement. These are two people that have no, when you say America first, I don't think you know what that statement means. I don't think you know what that concept means. What do you mean by America? These are two people. These are two billionaires. That's full stop. That's really all you need to know. So you think that Elon is America first. That is a vibes-based statement, if I've ever heard one. They both represent the corporate class. They both love Israel. Neither one of them did anything about Israel, you noticed. I just don't understand how you can say Elon is America first. The guy's South African. He's a South African billionaire who is the slave master to millions of Americans. Cruz, you say Elon wants to bring down the debt. Elon is the biggest cause of the debt. He has accrued hundreds of billions of dollars by which the United States government, via taxpayer money, is having to pay for and come up with that revenue separately because we did not tax Elon Musk and his private investor class. And we also awarded him government subsidies for his businesses to thrive in many manifest and unimaginable ways, many known and unknown ways. It's really quite incalculable when you have a nanny state that is propping up your business with subsidy after subsidy. And you're here to tell me that Elon cares about the debt? First of all, the debt is not a problem. The debt is in US dollars. We do not have to convert a currency in order to pay off our debt. We can just print more money. It's never been an issue. It's just a right-wing talking point. It's just a capitalist talking point. It's another capitalist confession because all billionaires want to complain about the debt without realizing that they are the sole reason for the huge deficit and the huge national debt ceiling, which is something like $36 trillion. And it grows by about $2 trillion every year. And the reason that it grows is because the government does not make up the amount of money that it spends. It outspends what it creates in revenue. And the reason that it doesn't create enough revenue is because it doesn't tax the rich. It doesn't tax the top 1%. That is because the top 1% have written the tax code, and they've written it in a way that benefits their class of investors and private executives and bankers. All that money, remember, every crisis, they make sure the central banks are paid off first. The banks never take a hit. It's always American working working class families. It's estimated, studies have been done that show that if a modest tax was imposed on the 1%, the top 1% of wealth accumulators, the national debt, the deficit would be completely destroyed. We'd be able to come up with the revenue. But the problem is we not only have to come up with the revenue, we not only have to pay back these billionaires that we should be taxing them, we also have to pay them interest on the money that we're borrowing that we should be taxing them, that should be rightfully ours. Because what you don't understand is that we created these people. These people did not descend upon high from a mountain. They came from our societies. They came from our schools. They were raised in our public infrastructure. They have benefited. They have inherited the mantle of all human knowledge that society has created, that the working class has created. They have benefited off the backs of those who came before them and those who still work today that they depend on to even have a supply chain, okay? To even make a profit, you need a working class. And that's why you have to understand that the capitalists are completely superfluous, because we could literally not have them and still have a well-functioning society. But the same cannot be said for the reverse of that statement, or the inverse of that statement, which is if the working class were to disappear, there would be no society. That's because the working class is absolutely essential. In order to have a society, you need humans that can convert natural resources into commodities fit for human consumption, and they do that via this nature-imposed eternal necessity for sustaining life, which is called human labor. And for you to come here and tell me that Elon is America first and he wants to bring down the debt, brother, you have some severe brain rot, okay? I'm sorry to hear about your botched lobotomy. I really am. I wish it had gone better, so you wouldn't be here spewing out this insane drivel, okay? May God have mercy on your soul. Okay, good. You say, I don't care about Musk or Trump. You're America first. Great. Okay, so I still don't understand what you mean by America. Do you mean the top 0.1% of the investor class for which we all must serve? Do you mean, when you say America, do you mean the military industrial complex? Do you mean the weapons industries? Or do you mean average working class? I don't say average as a slight. I mean the common people that create the society, democratic majority. Because, I mean, this word, like America, just like socialism, is so vacuous of any meaning at this point because it's so overblown and misused that nobody really knows what you're saying. I mean, it sounds nice on paper, America first, but what does that mean? You like to brown kids in the Middle East? Is that putting America first? Do you think starting forever wars around the world so that American corporations can control third world markets and make sure that these territories and these countries and these sovereign indigenous people stay open to the capitalist machine and can be ground down and their cultures turned into a monoculture, cash crop, one-stop society for the corporate plantation of the United States? Is that what you mean by America? Let me tell you something, son. That ain't the America I know. Are you talking about the country that was founded on a genocide of the native population and sustained and flourished through the enslavement of another population? Are you talking about a country that was founded on settler colonialism? Do you subscribe to the values and principles espoused in settler colonialism? Is that America? The working class and the American dream? Well, as George Carlin once put it, of course it's called the American dream because you'd have to be asleep to believe it. There's no such thing as the American dream so long as there is the political economy of capitalism. It's impossible because capitalism is a political economy which is based on an irreconcilable contradiction between two classes which are eternally antagonistic. There's internal friction between the working class and the ownership class, and that's by design. And as long as you have wealth accumulating into ever confining, ever smaller and fewer hands, you will always have an economy that tends towards monopolies, which proliferate in the economy of capitalism by design. And that's why it's called a political economy, because you can't separate politics from the economy. It's inseparable. How do many people know this? That every economic decision is also political. Anytime you have a surplus value created by workers, there are necessary questions that should be asked as to what happens to that surplus value. Who controls it? Who decides where that surplus value goes? Every society has to answer this question if they're going to sustain life. They have to decide because they're absolutely essential. First and foremost, you have a group of workers workers. You have people that can use their labor to create commodities that other people in the society who may not be able to do that very thing, they can consume those commodities. And it also is a feature of every working class that has ever sustained a society that when people get together, they always create more value than they can readily consume in one sitting by themselves. And that is what's called the surplus value. It just means they have more than what they actually need at the present moment. And that's what a society is. It's like we've now achieved where we're off the level of subsistence, meaning that, long time ago, if they wanted to eat that day, they had to go kill something or do something to acquire that food. They had to use their labor to acquire food. And the next day they'd have to do it over and 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 over again. And we're still largely doing that in different ways, but now there's a division of labor. But the society has evolved. We've now overcome nature. We've now wielded the tools of nature to overcome nature. We have an excess, we have a surplus, and we don't have to live so barbarically or so minute to minute on the level of subsistence. So every society has to answer that question. What do we do with all of this stuff that we now have? Well, in socialism, actually existing socialism, that surplus value would be decided by the people that created it, the workers. That seems to be the most moral thing that I can think of, okay? The most moral thing that one can say, that a 5-year-old can understand, is that the fruits of your labor belong to you. Well, we are taught in a political economy of capitalism that is not true, that the fruits of your labor actually belong to someone else. And in capitalism, it's capitalists that it belongs to. And that is taken as the air that we breathe, okay? It's taken like the air that we breathe. And there's nothing more immoral than having a society built on this principle of exploitation, which is what it amounts to. When you get to own the value that others have created, you, sir, are a lazy parasite, okay? It's so funny that capitalists love to call socialists lazy parasites trying to live off the government dole. No, that's exactly what capitalists like your favorite little apartheid welfare queen, Elon Musk, is. Exactly what he is. A lazy parasite. But that is the cultural hegemony of capitalism. That's the indoctrination that we're up against. We reward the laziest people with the grossest amount of egregious wealth. And there's nothing more immoral about that. And as long as we have an economy that so consciously pursues profits above all other human values and principles and beliefs and ideas in society, then we are perpetually, eternally doomed, because that's what the system mandates. That's where all this leads. Rising prices while creating crisis. I love it, and I love it even more that it rhymes. America, home of the exploited, land of the extorted. There you go. What's up, Morflex? Eco, welcome back. When people say rich people risk money, I respond, if the rich person buys a factory and fills it with materials, how much money will he make with zero employees doing any of the work in the factory? Yes, it is the workers that risk it all. Now, remember, whenever you listen to a capitalist or somebody that's espousing the ideals of capitalism, which is an oxymoron of itself, always flip it back to them, because everything that they're saying, their arguments, can be taken in inverse, and they can be applied directly to them. It's just like talking to a Zionist. Every accusation is a confession of their own. And that's why I just got through with that lazy parasite, living off the government dole, as they say. That's exactly what their behavior is. To the tune of hundreds of billions and trillions over the years. $40 trillion have been transferred, aka robbed, from the bottom half of the working class population to the top fraction of 1%. It used to be like 1%. Now it's like a fraction or a tenth of 1%. That's where this is going. Pretty soon it's just going to be one guy. It almost already is to some extent. I mean, I still think that there's obviously a class. Power is allotted within that class. But I mean, we're talking about imperial capitalism. Humans have never lived through this epic before. Never has there ever been a political economy that has traversed the entire world, that has dominated every hemisphere, that everywhere you go in the world, there is the political economy of capitalism that has already gotten there before you and is extracting resources out of it and rearranging the social and political life of that society to serve the interests of profit accumulation for the mega corporation in the sky. So yeah, you can't, there's no analog to this, I guess is my point. You can't point to a different time, and the stakes have never been higher. The people have never been richer, That's why they say apartheid Clyde is the richest human in world history, they say. I don't know if that's true, but I would tend to believe it's like saying the United States Empire is the most lethal, strongest most dominating empire in human history, because the stakes have never been higher. We have satellite GPS technology, we have aircraft carriers, we have nuclear bombs, we have military bases, we have a pointillist empire. We control things differently than the British Empire did, but we cover the entire globe.